Hello and welcome to Marriage Matters. We want to continue working on how we can grow together in our marriage, and so developing on the cleaving part of the leaving and cleaving theme that we've looked at in previous videos. We want to look at how we can grow together by understanding each other's love languages.
Yeah, so this is something that we have alluded to in previous sessions, and it's based on a book called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Smalley. I think that's right, but you will find it if you look at those words. And it's based on the concept that we all receive love in different ways, that there are 5 main ways that we receive love. So there's words of affirmation, there's physical touch, there's gifts, there's acts of service, and what's the other one? Quality time. I should know that because that's one of mine.
I should know that because it's one of hers.
But we have found that this has made such a difference, understanding this concept of love languages, because so often our default is to communicate love to another person in the way that we receive love. So for me, my main love languages, for anyone who's interested, are acts of service and quality time. But for Chris, his main ones, well, I'll let you say.
I think my main ones would be words of affirmation and physical touch. And the issue is, if you get yourself in a mess, or rather you will get yourself in a mess if you try and communicate with yours to someone who's different.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter how many words I say to Susan, if I'm not actively doing some act of service or involving quality time, then it's not going to get through. It's not going to hit the spot. So that's what we wanted to talk about today. We want to share some of our experiences of how that has helped us grow together in marriage.
Yeah, so if this is not something that you've really thought about or aware of, we'd really encourage you to start having that conversation and start considering yourself and your spouse and think, what is it that really makes them feel loved? And what we've discovered as well is that one of the clues to discovering your marriage partner's love language or anyone's love language is to listen to what do they complain about. And for example, my eldest son, his love language is also words of affirmation. That's really important to him, and I've noticed that he's very quick to say how great a job I'm doing, and he's very grateful. And while I appreciate that, sometimes I find myself thinking, well, it's very nice you saying all these nice words, but what would actually bless me is if you tidied your room. And it's things like that he's really trying to love me well, and he's familiar with this. We've talked about this a lot as a family, and this is really helpful to do with your children as well, and close friends. But actually, someone can be trying really hard to show love, and yet the other person feel completely not heard or seen or feel loved because it's not actually in their language.
So we're using the word love, but as you can already tell, this is just as appropriate for your marriage as it is for your children, but also for teams and workplaces, where it's a dimension of understanding how each other operates. I guess that first thing we're saying is find out what yours is, and find out what the people you're closest to, their love languages are as well. And the smart way to do that, if you don't actually know, or if the other person can't explain it, is look what hurts when it's not there. So I know for me, harsh words, negative cutting words hit me more than other people, because love languages, so words of affirmation is a primary love language. So it's helped me find it. The positive flip side of it is you can see what makes people really light up. Sometimes we've noticed that we've given someone like a small present when we've arrived at their house, and they've really lit up, and we're like, hang on, that's just a tiny thing, but they're a gifts love language person. And so that really makes a difference. It's kind of good to mentally clock that, so you know we have two idioms for understanding this. the 5 love languages that we just talked about: words of affirmation, physical touch, quality time, acts of service, and giving gifts. Those 5 languages are key. But the other picture is a bucket, and this is one the kids picked up from school. Is when you're feeling empty, what is it that fills you up? What fills up your bucket? Yeah. Why am I saying that now? It's because when people are running low, that's when you need to know how to fill them up. And there's no one more important in that respect than your spouse.
Absolutely.
Is identifying when they're running low and knowing how to fill them up. I guess it's a bit like being hangry. You know, everyone, if you're close to someone who gets hangry, it's not a particularly a thing for me. I think I have other ones. But then as you get close to them, if they haven't had enough to eat, they can snap at you and bite your head off. And you're like, what is that? Well, it's very, very simple. Get some food.
Yeah, I'm guilty of getting hungry.
Well, that can make all the all I'm saying is that can make all the difference. And you can think, oh, you know, this is some drawn out, complicated issue. It's often not. It's just that they have got that need. And if you can deal with that need, then you deal with the symptoms as well. And something similar is true with our love buckets. So, to use our kids' picture, is that when we're running low, we can behave weird because we're trying to say, without even realising it, I need this thing filling up.
That's right.
And so that's what you've got to look out for, is what is it that's making people metaphorically hangry?
Yeah.
How do you fill up that bucket?
That's right, because it's like the oil in a relationship, like the oil in a car. A car won't go without oil in, and actually if there isn't enough oil in a vehicle, it grinds and it's hard to change gear and it just doesn't run. It's much more bumpy, and it's the same in a relationship. If you can keep each other's love buckets, as it were, or love accounts full, then just the general kind of wear and tear of life, it has a much lower impact. But if you find you're often getting irritable with each other, or there's conflict over little things, it could well be that actually yours or your partner's bucket is low. And sometimes we can think, well, their love languages, that's not my normal expression, so that's not who I am. We need to go to where our spouse is, even if that language is not natural to us. You know, to take another example, as Brits, we have a bit of a bad reputation when we go abroad. We expect everybody to speak English, and we are not the best nation for learning the languages of other nations. But actually, that it goes a long way when you make the effort, and it's even more important in a marriage relationship. If your partner's love language is words of affirmation, but you think, well, I'm not a good communicator, or I'm not very expressive, so they're just gonna have to understand that that's not who I am. That's not good enough. This person is the most important person in your life, so they are worth making the effort for. And it might be with with giving gifts. It might be you feel like, oh, we don't have a budget for that. It doesn't have to be expensive. It could just be writing a little note, writing a card. Our daughter, that's one of her love languages. And something that she does is she often makes little things, like little bracelets or something out of beads, and she gives them to me. Or, you know, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be a cup of coffee or something. But it's the act of bringing something and giving. And, you know, sometimes there's specific things within the love language. So, for example, for physical touch, it could be that someone really likes a foot rub or a hug, or, you know, so get to know, have these conversations with your spouse and find out what's the particular thing. Or, as I said, for me, acts of service is a big one. Something that Chris does that blesses me no end is that he cooks for me. Chris does most of the cooking in our marriage, and that blesses me a lot. So I love that he does that, and that, you know, as he's already said, getting me food really helps me. I think food can be another love language. But yeah, it's really important. Don't just rule yourself out and think, well, that's not how I do things. If you love, you will go out of your way to learn and to attend to your spouse, because it's so important that they feel loved.
That's right. We don't want to be that metaphorical person on holiday in France who hasn't bothered to learn anything apart from bonjour, goes into the boulangerie, points at the baguette and says, I want one of those. Please, can I have some bread? Ooh, je ne comprends pas. Please, can I have some bread? In our relationships,
No.
that doesn't work for the other person just pointing and talking more loudly. It's got to be, I've learned something of your language and I want to bring that to you. Now, conversely, anyone who's actually been on holiday and exercised their Paul GCSE level French will know that local people really appreciate the fact that you made an effort.
Yeah.
So it's not about suddenly going from nothing to fluent overnight. It's about getting out the phrase book and learning a few sentences so you can begin that journey of understanding each other's love languages. You may be in the fortunate position that you already speak one of the same, but don't lean on that.
Yeah.
Look out for the other one, and also understand that I think more and more that as we walk together, we've understood this. Everybody is a little bit of all of them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? We might have one or two primary ones, but everyone's a little bit of all of them, especially when there's a massive deficit in one of them.
Yeah.
And keep your eyes open for that and don't rest on your laurels. However, just like the antidote to hangry is giving food, when you do this, you build a great platform for dealing with things. Don't expect to be able to deal with a complicated issue or go after something that you would like in your relationship if you haven't bothered to lay the groundwork with filling up one another's buckets in terms of love languages. Because you can expect a simple thing to get very complicated very quickly, rather like if you decide to discuss mortgages with a hungry person. Now, come on, just think about it. It's not wisdom, is it? But if you invest in their love language, that is the time when you can then deal with something you might need to deal with.
Yeah. And just like we said about go and make the effort to learn and to speak your partner's love language, and do the same with your kids and those close to you. You, as a person wanting to receive love as well, we also need to not demand, and we need to be patient with one another. And this is where we talked about some other things about saying, when you do this, I feel this, rather than you never or you always. So that's our topic today. We just urge you, have fun with this. Go and explore and find out one another's love languages, because marriage matters and your marriage partner matters, as do the people around you. So have fun and enjoy.